Hello, I am Micah from VAE Live Media, and I'm here today with a very special guest, Ms. Prudence Mathis, and she's here today to tell us a very, very interesting story, and it's such an honor to have you and also Matthew here. He also part of this story. And first of all, would you please tell the audience a little bit about yourself and the organizations, and then we're going to go in a little more detail in the story.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting us to come. The organization is the David Nicklas Organ Donor Awareness Foundation, which is a nonprofit located here in Grand Prairie. And our founder will be celebrating his 28th year anniversary of receiving his heart transplant on October the 20th.
Yes, and that is the topic of the show today, that receiving a gift of life.
Yes.
That's what your organization called. So the story is Mr. Rodney DeBond have received a gift of life from a heart failure when he was young. So can you tell a little bit about that story, a little more in detail, how it started and how it is happening today?
Yes, thank you very much for asking. Rodney was 36 years old at the time. He was an athlete in perfect health.
Yes.
And he thought he had the flu. He was feeling a bit fatigued, and he went to the doctor in June of 1993. And at that time, he finally was diagnosed with cardiomyopathy, and his heart was only functioning at 11 or 12%. He was told that he needed to go on the heart transplant list, and at that time, the wait time was 12 to 18 months. And that he was given actually a diagnosis of maybe he would last 6 months. So it was a very bleak diagnosis.
Wow, at age 36, and at that time he also already have a family.
Yes.
Yeah, so it must be very sad for him to have a heart failures and have 2 young kids and have a very little life expectancy from the illness. Yes, and so he has a heart failures, and then there's a miracle that happened. Can you please tell the audience how there was a donor, but it's really a miracle how it happened?
Very much so.
Yes.
Rodney at the time he owned a airplane charter company.
Yes.
And when his life expectancy was such a short period of time, he decided to retire. And he was having a difficult time making it like from the couch to the door even. So in a chance meeting about 6 weeks prior to his heart transplant, he was introduced to a gentleman by the name of Lucky Bramlett. And it was like a 2-hour just to talk, and Lucky found out that Rodney was in desperate need of a heart. Yeah. Well, sadly, 6 months later, Lucky's grandson by the name of David Nicklas, he was a second lieutenant in the Air Force, he was involved in a fatal motorcycle accident. And at the time, the family was asked if they would be willing to donate David's organs. And at first they said no, because here was an unexpected death of a very, very young person. And the grandmother was very much against it. And the hospital said, let's wait till tomorrow. Yeah. And so that evening, Lucky said he was in a dead sleep, and he felt like something jerked him up with his pajama top. And
you're talking about Lucky, the grandfather.
The grandfather,
yes. The grandfather
of David, right. Yes. Yeah. And he said the only thing he could think of was Rodney. And he's like, who's Rodney? Well, then it dawned on him, Rodney DeBond needed a heart. So when they got back to the hospital and they told him that, they would donate David's organs, but only if Rodney was given David's heart. I don't know if you know much about organ donation, but there is a lot of testing that has to be done. And in order to be matched, there's blood work and the physicality and that type of thing. And none of that obviously had been done.
Yes.
And the hospital balked. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. And the family held fast, and they said, well, we're not going to donate any of David's organs. And actually, he wound up saving other people's lives as well. There's 2 other families that were given David's organs. The family has not been in touch with the Nicklas family, so we are not exactly sure who they are, but we do know that they did receive them. So they called and let Rodney know, or the friend that introduced them called, and Rodney's like, well, I'm sorry, David was in an accident, but how is this affecting me? And he goes, no, Rodney, they're donating his heart to you. And I'm sorry, I get a little choked up when I hear this story.
Imagine, yes. So I understand that usually when ones that want to get a heart recipients, it has to be a match. When it's not a match, because myself, I have a relative that needed a heart transplant, but the waiting was so long because they couldn't find a match.
Yes.
And unfortunately, she passed away. This had been so many years ago.
Sorry.
So in this story, that Rodney was needing a heart, and David was the donor, and they happened to perfectly match through a dream from the grandfather, Lucky. And so everything was just laying in so wonderfully.
Yeah, it's all lined up perfectly. And like I said, things happen for a reason, and I really believe that.
Yeah.
I think David wanted his heart to do more good. And I think with Rodney being the recipient and the person that Rodney Devon is, he's doing more than what I think David would have dreamt of, honestly, because Rodney is just a wonderful guy, very generous, and Rodney is also, and their foundation, Prudence, they do such wonderful things for our community that the Low Foundation and Asia Times Square is always thankful for the opportunity for us to be able to sponsor their fundraiser as well. It's just a very warm feeling to know that there's such good people out there. And I want to thank you, Prudence, for doing everything and making the public aware of this story. I think it's a beautiful story, and it must be shared.
Thank you. And I know that the Low Foundation have done so many sponsors for so many good causes, and I'm so happy that he's able to be a part of this. So not only that David have given the heart to Rodney, but he also gave 2 other donations to 2 other patients. Do we know what kind of organs that he given to the other 2?
I believe it was his kidney and his liver, but I honestly can't remember right offhand. But we do know that they were people with children, so other families were able to be together just like Rodney's family was. One of the interesting things, you mentioned a perfect match. It was. The doctors were astounded. It was a 100% match, which is very unusual for someone that's not related. And Rodney was told, I'm not sure if you are aware, but once you receive an organ donation, you have to continually go back to the doctor to make sure that the anti-rejection meds are working. And Rodney was told by his doctor, he said, if I didn't know your story and I was a betting man, I would have bet that you and David were twins. Because well, his anti-rejection rate is like 0.00 something or another.
And they are like 20-something years apart.
Yes. So, but one of the things that David had mentioned, because you kind of touched a little bit on it about giving, David, when he went to the Air Force Academy, the first time he met who became his best friend, Mark Wagner, he said, let me see your driver's license. And he's like, well, why? And he goes, I want to see if you're an organ donor. And so that was kind of mention number 1. And when Rodney was so sick, we feel this was truly a miracle and a God path. Because when Rodney was so sick, one evening he had taken the Bible and he just picked it up and let it fall open, and he picked a Psalms verse. And he said, okay, God, I can't do this on my own. I have 2 small children. Please let me live to make sure that they're grown. And so he said, I will do whatever you lead me to do, and I will give back however I can.
And he
has done that tenfold. He first started out doing air shows to promote organ donor awareness. And then he would fly transplant patients who lived too far from a transplant center. But unfortunately, he became very, very close to some who subsequently passed away. So he said, okay, I need another direction here. So now one of our divisions, Aero Firma, builds multifamily apartments, among other things. They do a lot of commercial building. And our group property manages these multifamily units. And we have a brand new one that we just opened in Grand Prairie, which we're very excited about.
For the retreat, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
it is great, a luxury community property for those 62 and up. So we'll have 3 properties that we have set up units at for our foundation families.
Yeah.
And so far, we have helped 100 and I think when I looked, 108 families. And yes, and we have a new child, a 3-year-old heart transplant. She's on the list coming in soon. And it's just so rewarding. I get to work with the patients and their caseworkers, and it's just awesome.
And I can see the happy face on you that you are part of this.
Yes.
But Matthew, from hearing her story, minutes ago we heard that David wanted to be organ donor by asking his best friend's ID to make sure that he's a donor. But his family's against that. Didn't you say that his grandmother and so against that?
He had only mentioned that to his brother, his older brother.
Yeah.
And so they were not aware of his wishes. So one of the things that we promote when we talk about organ donor awareness is please let your families know that this is something that you wish to do.
And put on the driver license also.
Yes.
But my point is the family didn't want it to happen, but in God's miracle, it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So his wishes got carried on, and he was able to give at least 3 people that he have helped with their lives. And not only that, today, after 28 years later, his legacy lived on by having the recipient, Rodney, is having an organization. It's called David. In the memory of his donor, David Nicklas Organ Donor Awareness Foundation. Wow, that's a long title. But you can see that how 2 people perfectly match, and they carry on the legacy that could help so many other family members. And I know that your organization have donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to the one that needed.
We for the families, one gentleman was with us over 3 years, and for his housing needs alone, we supplied over $40,000. And when you think about these families, that where they come from, and our criteria is you must live at least 3 hours away, because the viability of a heart is 4 hours. So if you live in El Paso, you're not going to make it to Dallas in that time frame.
And you're providing that free
housing.
Free housing.
Yes.
And not only that, I understand that you also offer to the veterans.
We do.
Yeah. The free air transportation.
Yes.
You guys do so much to help other people to be able to receive whatever.
Gift of life, basically.
Yeah.
Gift
of life.
I think to sum all this up, and I'm always at awe when I hear the story about Rodney and Devon, and how these 2 strangers end up being a perfect match. And the only thing I can come up with is just work of God.
Exactly.
God's work.
Exactly.
And this is truly a miracle.
And David's sister works for the foundation. She's been working there 22 years, I think.
It is such a wonderful foundation. For the Low Foundation, we try to interview and help. We are always looking for a great organization to help us with our mission, right? To help us with our mission. And the Nicklas Foundation, if those of you don't know about them, please do Google them, check them out on their webpage. They do wonderful work. I'm just extremely honored, really, truly, and blessed and honored to call Prudence my friend, and also to be able to connect with Rodney Devon and the Devon family. They do such wonderful work. They are a gem in GP.
And also, can you please tell the people how they can contact you? And also, there is a month in the year that you do this foundation. Can you please tell the audience about it?
Yes, April is actually Organ Donation Month. So if you would like to find out more about us, please check us out at Nicklas, and it's spelled Nicklas, foundation.org. That's our website. You can also find us on Facebook under the Nicklas Foundation. And if you would like to contact us, our number is 214-412-2737, and my extension is 105. We would love to talk to you. You're welcome to come by and visit us. We love sharing what we do, and if you have organizations, churches, schools, whatever, we come and tell our story free of charge. And our goal is to promote organ donor awareness as well as providing fully furnished rent-free housing for transplant patients who live too far from a transplant center. One of the other things that we do, we also provide scholarships for graduating seniors enrolled in GPISD, and so far we've given over $150,000.
Yes, and I know the Law Foundation also gives scholarships to a lot. So,
and we are so pleased to partner with the Law Foundation.
And I'm so pleased to meet you guys and have this conversation today, because I know he's done so much and you've done so much, just such a great story.
Well, thank you for asking us. And one day, I hope that you get to hear it from Rodney, because when he tells the story, it's extremely powerful. And I cry every time.
Yeah, and that was I was about to say. And he's not here today, and you're here to speak on his behalf. And he's doing okay after. How many years now? 28
It will be 28 on October 20th.
Yes, and he's still going strong.
Yes. He is the only airplane pilot still cleared, medically cleared to pilot a plane. And he has to get cleared through Washington, D.C. every year.
Wow. So there is hope for life. So just keep on hoping, and if someone that need a heart or something, there's a possibility that your organization will be able to help.
And you can go to donatelife.org to register as a donor if you already are not registered.
Donatelife.org. Very good. So my statement is, do you have the heart to be an organ donor? Right?
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Do you have the heart to be an organ donor? Yeah. So that's wow, such an inspiration story.
First of all, again, I want to thank you, Micah and VAE Live, and Angelina as well, for hosting this talk show so that we can talk about organ donation. It's a wonderful cause. It's just, very, in our work, I guess in the environment we're facing right now as a nation, hearing this kind of story makes it worth. Makes everything worth it. I think there's a lot of negativity going on, but those are minute, and we can always overcome that. And we are able to overcome that because of good organization, good people, great people, such as the Nicklas Foundation. And so, I do want to thank you, Prudence, and Rodney DeBon, and the entire DeBon family for always sponsoring events at Asia Times Square. You guys are a big sponsor for Mid-Autumn Festival. That means a lot. That truly means a lot, because what we're trying to do is, again, replace ignorance with tolerance. And I think with your sponsorship, it helps us bring our community together to unite. So,
well, we'd love to have you to come back and tell us more stories about your organizations and what you do and how you reach out to people. And we hope that the people will reach out to you in need, and you're able to help and provide the need. Thanks again, and thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Matthew, for being here.
And thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you, and see you again.